It's DJ Scream, the new 105.3 The Beat. We have a special guest today. He is a candidate for U.S. State Senator. Georgia's own Jon Ossoff is here with me on Hoodrich Radio. How you doing today, John?
All good, DJ Scream. Good to see you. How are you doing?
Man, thank you for your time, man. Your campaign is big. It's definitely gaining a lot of attention. Let me ask you first off, because there's a lot of people, with everything that went on this year that are just getting into politics. Explain to everybody the role of a senator so they'll be clear on what a senator does.
Yeah, and thank you again for having me. Thanks everyone for tuning in. So in Washington, D.C., Congress has two houses, the House and the Senate.
Right.
And every state has two senators. And so the House and the Senate have to agree on legislation in order to pass it. And your senator represents your interests in the Senate. You got two of them right now, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, both Republicans, both close allies of President Trump. And we have an opportunity in Georgia this year. In fact, we're the only state in the country with two Senate races this year. And I'm running in one race. The Reverend Raphael Warnock of Ebenezer Baptist Church is running as a Democratic candidate in the other. We're going to win both of these races, and we're going to change the nature of representation of our state in the Senate. And I would also just add that not only do senators vote on legislation and make laws, they also vote to confirm judges. So the judges who are appointed by the president to rule are confirmed and approved by the U.S. Senate. So it's so important that we have people in that body who really represent Georgia in all of its diversity and vibrance and the interests of everybody in this state.
So while we speak of rules and making changes, what are the things that need to be done if you're elected as the senator to help with police reform? Because obviously it's something that since Rodney King, before Rodney King, in 2016, again in 2020, while we're dealing with other crises, just keeps coming up. So what are the things that Jon Ossoff believes need to be done for police reform and to help police and civilian relations?
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think that there is more recognition broadly across the country right now of how serious a problem police brutality, racial profiling, the inequities in policing, prosecution, sentencing, and incarceration along racial lines and also along class lines. And that's why I will champion in the Senate a new Civil Rights Act, which will hold police departments, prosecutors, and judges across the country to high and uniform standards of civil rights and constitutional rights. Where there is brutality, there must be accountability. Where there is racial bias, there must be accountability. Until people are held accountable, behavior won't change. We need there to be real mechanisms at the federal level for these grievances to be redressed and to hold local officials, local officers, local judges accountable where they're violating civil rights.
Another thing that impacts the African American community pretty strong is cannabis. What are your thoughts on the decriminalization of cannabis? In a lot of states is legal now, but some people are still incarcerated with heavy sentences for something that is now legal. So how do we handle that and correct that issue as well?
Yeah, I'm not just for decriminalization. I'm for outright legalization of cannabis nationally. I think that the prohibition of this substance is irrational. I think that it's, as you pointed out, also a deep injustice that there are people getting wealthy in the legal cannabis industry while other folks are sitting in prison for cannabis related offenses. I think that whether you smoke or not should be up to you. I don't encourage it, but I don't encourage heavy drinking either. And alcohol is a legal substance. We're responsible for our own health.
Right.
And the enforcement of the prohibition of cannabis destroys lives. It costs huge amounts of money and it's unjust. So I'm in favor not just of legalization, but also expunging the records of people who have nonviolent marijuana related offenses on their records.
And speaking of second chances, we saw with the Rayshard Brooks incident, part of how it went down was maybe his fear of returning back to jail. After the incident went down, we saw online where he was saying, it's just such a place of fear filling out that job application, knowing that you made a mistake, but you want to do right for your family, you want to do right for your community. So, what are some of the things that can be done to help people get second chances who made mistakes, especially if it was in their younger years?
Yeah, I mean, the system should empower people to change for the better and to create more opportunity for themselves and to turn over a new leaf. It shouldn't be a trap. It
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be like quicksand.
Right.
And not just the criminal justice system and the probation system, but we have all of these institutions, from juvenile justice to even our educational system,
Mm-hmm.
the court system, the voting system here in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
that presents folks with this whole edifice of hostility.
Mm-hmm.
Like everywhere you go, it's like the system is not there to help and support, but to put obstacles in your path. And then if you get in trouble, it just dogs you your whole life. You've got this scarlet letter. It's hard to apply for jobs. You're dealing with probation officers who maybe don't seem to have your rehabilitation as their top priority, but just trying to make you continue to pay for your past. So government should be about helping people live their best lives, expanding human freedom, letting us all determine the circumstances of our own lives, pursue our dreams, provide for our families.
Mm-hmm.
Not about holding us back, and particularly when there's such racial inequity and where we see that this system in particular, as it has for centuries, penalizes Black people. We need deep reform.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A big date is obviously November 3rd. As we move towards November 3rd, we've seen some other elections which the community feels like might have been botched. We saw what just happened recently with people having to wait extremely long times to vote. As we move towards that date, what kind of information and suggestions can you give, you know, the voting community as to how they can get ahead of some of these things, or maybe even report things that aren't correct, just so everybody can stay motivated, because there are some people out there that just feels like, man, it might be a lost cause. They're gonna make it difficult to vote. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do this with the ballots. There's gonna be so much. We saw it with Stacey Abrams and Governor Kemp, so we just don't want that again. So what's some of your suggestions?
Well, I think that people should feel a righteous indignation that there are those trying to snatch voting rights away from us.
Hmm.
And when someone is trying to take away your rights, the way to fight back is to exercise those rights
Right.
passionately and in a focused way, and to ensure that all of our voices are heard. We can't give up because there's voter suppression, there's efforts to disenfranchise people.
Mm-hmm.
So make a plan to vote starting right now. It's November 3rd. November 3rd, it's a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Put that date in your phone.
Make it a holiday.
Look, talk to your boss right now. I mean, I'm going to be pushing. One of the things we're going to be doing is trying to mount a campaign to encourage employers to give folks as much flexibility that day or the day off as they can, because we know that these lines could be long.
Mm-hmm.
But this impacts all of us. I mean, during this pandemic, as we've seen all of the unrest and frustration and protest over racism and the criminal justice system this year,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, all of this intersects with politics.
Right.
Ultimately, this is about who is representing us. And look, not all politicians are the same.
Right.
There are folks who are going to do a better job for us than others, and it's up to us to elect them into office. So check out my website, electjon.com/voting. You can check your registration status. You can see where your polling place is going to be. And yeah, put November 3rd in your phone, make a plan, and talk to your family members, your colleagues, folks at your church, because we all have an obligation to turn out the vote.
While people of all colors and races suffer from the COVID-19 crisis, I actually got a positive test last
I
week.
saw
Thank
that.
God.
Yeah.
Mild symptoms, but as people suffer, man, one thing that really disheartens me is to wake up and to see headlines of a governor attacking a mayor and turning the crisis into a political hoorah. Like it's like, I'm going to make this political instead of actually helping people. I don't think by the time you become senator, we'll speak it, we'll be completely past the COVID crisis. Hopefully we are, but I don't think that we will be. What are some of the things moving into the new year that you want to do personally to help communities deal with the COVID crisis from a economic standpoint, from a health standpoint? Like, just give us some background on that.
Yeah, starting in January, God willing, with Donald Trump out the White House and a new Senate, we're going to have to rebuild. And we are still going to be in the midst of this crisis. It's unlikely we're going to have a vaccine by then.
Right.
And we're seeing at all levels, the federal level, the state level, a really incompetent response that's not taking the advice of public health experts. It's so political. It's so much short-term thinking. And it's self-destructive for these folks because the people can see that they're not up to it and that there is so much more suffering and infection and death and unemployment and eviction and foreclosure and bankruptcy than there needs to be. But what I'm about right now is, first of all, getting more direct help to people. Mm-hmm. We have seen trillions of dollars flow overnight virtually to Wall Street investment banks, to some of the largest corporations in America. My opponent, Senator David Perdue, opposed even a single $1,200 stimulus check.
Wow.
For ordinary people.
Wow.
I think we need more direct help for ordinary people. I think we need to recognize that the huge race and class disparities in infection and death from this disease reflect deep underlying inequality in our healthcare system that demands that we expand Medicaid, that we understand and recognize that human health is a human right. It's not something that should be reserved just for those who have the resources and the flexibility to get the best insurance on the private market. Right. We need to make sure that people have more options, more choices, that there's a break in the link between health and wealth. And we can do that. I think one of the tragedies and opportunities here is that this stuff is actually not that complicated.
Right.
The problems we need to solve aren't mysterious. The solutions to the problems aren't mysterious.
Yep. They just,
and
certain people that don't want to do it.
And so, not to be like a broken record, but it really comes down to voting.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go and work for folks who are listening. I'm ready to go and work for you. And look, I'll come back on DJ Scream's show and I'll account for every vote I take, and I'll listen to criticism. And I want to be criticized. I want to be questioned. That is my role as someone who seeks to serve you in public life, is to be accountable to you. So, I humbly ask for support, and whether or not you're going to vote for me, get out there and vote.
Absolutely. I like that. A powerful picture you posted on your Instagram was you as a young boy campaigning for people to vote in Maynard Jackson as the first black mayor. Just tell us a little bit about that experience or what you can remember, because I thought that was just amazing.
Yeah, that was a blast from the past. We found that a couple of weeks ago, campaigning for Maynard Jackson in Atlanta, I guess in the late 80s, early 90s. I worked in the office of Congressman John Lewis as a very young man, and then worked for 5 years for Congressman Hank Johnson, also a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. And, I believe that we can achieve great things when we elect people who have the people's interests at heart. And, I just want to reach out to everybody listening and say, I know it's easy to be cynical, and it's easy to discount what folks running for office promise, because there are so many promises and talk is cheap.
Yeah.
But there is also the potential for greatness, and for us to build a state and a society that we can all truly be proud of, where, voting rights are sacrosanct, where we secure equal justice under the law for all, where we recognize that we can prosper and be sustainable and respect our environment and our planet, and where we can make human health a human right. And let's just get it done. I think young people get that too, but let's get it done. Let's be inspired by great people who have come before us, but now take up the mantle, take things into our own hands, and make change for the better.
Couple last questions for you. My wife is a healthcare worker. Your wife is a healthcare worker. What do you want to say to the healthcare workers? Because it seems like 2 months ago they were the heroes, and they definitely still are the heroes. But some of that fell into politics too, because you don't hear as much about the frontline healthcare workers, and then some of them are complaining about wages and overtime and benefits and so forth. So what do you want to say to the healthcare workers that are out there on the front line, especially since you're so close to it in your household as I am as well?
Yeah, huge love to everyone who's working as part of the medical response, the incredible medical teams. You know, and I know as people with healthcare workers in the family that, these are soldiers. These are folks who work long, long, long hours. They put themselves at risk. And yeah, we had those few weeks where everyone was cheering them on, and I do worry that we've lost sight of the fact that they're putting themselves on the line for us. And it's not just healthcare workers, it's all the essential workers, everyone who's
Right.
keeping trucks running and roads open and the power plants on, and everything that we need in order to continue to function during this difficult time. And they're not getting the level of support that they need from their employers, from the government. So deep respect to everyone who's out there grinding to keep this country functioning during this time. And I just hope that we can make some changes in November and do better for y'all moving forward, and show true gratitude for what you're doing for all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Does Jon Ossoff listen to any hip hop music?
Yeah, I grew up listening to Atlanta hip hop, man. I grew up listening to Aquemini. I grew up
Nice.
listening to Tip and Ludacris, and
Nice.
I can't say that I have expert level knowledge, but I did
Yeah.
look into your discography as well in
Okay.
preparation for this interview. And so respect to you for what you've achieved in the industry. And yeah, I mean, Atlanta has this hard-earned reputation, not just as a cradle for the civil rights movement, but also this incredible, vibrant cultural capital, where so many Black artists have been able to come up and then become international superstars. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I'm excited about in the U.S. Senate is working with and supporting all of the producers of culture and media, music, film, and television here in Atlanta and across the state.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jon Ossoff, man, many blessings to you. Well wishes on your campaign. You're welcome on Hoodrich Radio anytime. If you just want to say something to the people, feel
Thanks,
free.
man.
Give everybody your social media handles, your website again, so everybody can go, do their deep dives and catch up with Jon Ossoff.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, DJ Scream. I'll take you up on that. I love radio. I'd love to come back. Y'all
Anytime.
can find me on the web at electjon.com. That's where you get the voting information. Twitter at Ossoff, Instagram at Jon Ossoff, and just drop me a line. I'm accessible. I'm responsive, and much love to the people. We'll get through this together.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for your time. November 3rd is a big day, people. Make
Yes,
sure
it
you
is.
stay focused. Make sure you pay attention to what matters the most. And most importantly, support genuine people. And I personally feel like Jon Ossoff and the things that he is saying is very genuine. So we salute you for that. And that's what it is, man. We appreciate you.
Hey, and stay healthy, and best wishes for a swift recovery, man. Love
Thank
to
you.
you and your
Thank you.
family. Take
I
care.
appreciate it, man. All right. Take
All
care.
right.
All
Bye
right.
bye.